It's 7 o'clock, and at this time, I'll call the meeting to order of the Board of Selectmen for Tuesday, March 7th, 2023. The revised regular meeting agenda is before us. At this time, I would ask that everyone rise and salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
and to the
Republic
republic
which
for which stands
one
one
nation,
nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's slide over. So there's a face in part of this window. We have a new owl with us. Welcome, owl. Oh, Kathy, I'm sorry. I see that we are on the camera here and not the camera on the owl.
Yep.
Is that something? We know how to the button.
There we go.
Up.
We went through this before.
And it worked.
No.
Oh.
No, we've had this problem before, and I don't know, it's something here in the controls.
I'm going to scoot up. We're going to recess for just 2 minutes. Very good. Thank you for your patience. We'll call the meeting back to order. The next item on the agenda is the resignation of Lance Dimick.
Public comment.
Oh, I'm sorry.
With
Do
the
we,
throng of multitudes.
there is no one here present besides the illustrious board members and our town administrator in-house, and we have our members. Do we know who this phone number is?
Fire chief.
Oh, the fire chief is there. Welcome to the fire chief for under public comment. Chief, would you like to say something?
Thank you very much for welcoming me. No comment tonight so far.
No, kidding. It was nice to see you go flying by this morning on a call, and I want to thank you for your service. Moving on then to number 3, we'll go to the resignation.
I have another resignation if you'd like to add it. We would have to add it by a motion of the board.
Ma'am, we have a motion on the floor to add a resignation of Tina Pryor from the library as a library assistant. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. So we'll start with the first one. I need a motion to accept the resignation of Lance. Oh, I'm sorry. We'll vote on the motion for Tina, putting Tina Pryor's resignation on the agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And it passes unanimously. At this time, we'll start with Lance Dimick. Could I have a motion, please, to accept with regrets the resignation of Lance Dimick, please?
Also move, and with a comment, worked with Lance for many years. I really have to thank him for his dedication, his work, and his commitment to our community. Lance, thank you very much. Enjoy your time off. You've earned it.
And do I have a second?
Second.
Zero.
Bob DePietro seconds it, and he concurs with Mr. Moore's comments. Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, it passes unanimously. At this time, I would ask for a motion to accept with regrets Tina Pryor's letter of resignation.
Also move.
Bob Moore moves. Do I have a second? Bob DePietro seconds. I've worked with Tina at the library, and she has been a very positive, warm, inviting, thoughtful, and encouraging, as well as very well informed member of that staff, and it will be sad to lose her. Having said that, are there any other comments about Tina Pryor? Then I will ask for a motion. All in favor of the motion to accept the resignation of Tina Pryor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and it passes unanimously. Moving on to new business. The first thing we have under new business is the discussion of a 4-day work week. The Personnel Subcommittee did meet and had some discussions, and I would like to ask our town administrator, Jim Rupert, to make comments, please.
But one of the things that came out of that meeting is that we would talk to the staff and do a staff that would be affected by it and do a quick survey and provide those responses. It was about 50-50. And, you know, we did receive some comments. This came to you in your supplemental package this afternoon. The comments we received, you know, some folks didn't want to work longer days as it wasn't conducive for life after work. The comment was it might not work so well with contractual obligations to other communities. Difficult for those looking for inspections, especially when there was a situation with a Monday holiday. Another employee said, you know, I have programs going on in my department on Fridays, regardless of whether I would be here or not. And it would make it more difficult to monitor those Friday programs. It can inhibit communications with other staff who might be working, you know, a regular 5-day work week. And it doesn't really fit well with the 37-hour work week that we have. It seems to fit better for those communities that either have 32 or 35-hour work weeks. And then the comments that we heard, you know, that were really more supportive of the votes in favor of the 4-day work week, where they really liked and embraced the idea. It worked well for their family life. It creates a great break, and they feel like they would be more refreshed after a 3-day weekend. And another one said that it, you know, might have a positive effect on morale.
Thank you. Discussion, Bob DePietro.
Yeah, how was the survey done?
We just spoke to the employees.
One-on-one?
Yes. One-on-one.
Because in my experience, when there's give or take among a meeting or a group, we have a chance to listen to what's behind people's perspective rather than a one-on-one. So, you know, from what I saw, the reasons against by the 8 were more specific and substantive, whereas the ones who were in favor, which I was for originally, were more general and more feeling oriented rather than substantive, specific, the way the first 8 were at the top. So I'm going to probably change my perspective.
Thank you, Bob. Bob Moore, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I'm not convinced that is a workable thing. And I also question, I know this, I want to make sure that I'm looking at this in the right set of eyes. This really deals with town hall operations, right? Not
Town hall and finance.
in finance, correct. So it does not affect, does not include highway, nor does it include the buildings and ground.
Or the library, because they already have a modified work schedule, I think, during the summertime.
And, okay. I'm just curious to see how those folks would feel about other department in town having a 4-day week, and they don't. They have a 5-day week. Years ago, we talked about that, and we did get a significant kickback on that.
I suspect we would again.
That's my comment. So before we do anything, I think we really have to think this thing out fully.
And I know Mike has his hand up, but if I could, just address the comment that Bob made. You know, staff have been talking about this openly here at Town Hall with one another, Bob, and I think those who are not in favor have really made their arguments to one another, and those that are in favor have made their arguments to one another. So, you know, we've been talking about this, you know, when the staff first brought it to me, I committed that I would bring it to the Board of Selectmen for discussion. And you all have been looking at it and discussing it for a while now, and as have the staff. So I think that the responses that we got are well thought out and vetted by both those that are in favor of the change and those that aren't. And I think the one comment that I would add to that I didn't put in here is something that I said at the Personnel Subcommittee meeting. You know, this is something that's happening with many other towns in our county. And, you know, it may be something that we have to look at. If we do nothing with it now, if we don't make any changes, it may be something that we're forced to look at again in the future, you know, with regard to, you know, being able to attract and retain the best employees out there that want to work in municipal government.
Mike Aramita has his hand up. Mike?
Thank you.
Just two comments. Number one, I think it should be an all or nothing kind of thing. I don't think we should go halfway into it. If we're going to do it, we do it for all the staff in town hall and finance, or we don't do it for everybody in town hall and finance. And the second one is, I think that we would be we'd have our heads in the sand if we don't think that this would come up in the contracts for other unions the next time they open, because it'll be on the bargaining table first thing, guaranteed. You know, it's if you do it for one, you're going to wind up doing it for all, and it'll be a negotiating thing that you'll either have to pay up for in raise to get it off the table, or accept it and go with it. So those are my two comments.
Thank you. Any further, Adam?
I'm not hostile to 4-day work week, but I don't think it is the time. And I don't think that there's a groundswell of support among the affected employees. So it doesn't seem to me that this would be wise. I would say, I kind of agree with Bob. I mean, or Jim, at some point we might get pushed in that direction, but I'd rather sort of be pushed and have it be worked out with the employees and the unions and the other staff than sort of have us be the only ones pushing it forward, you know? Like, I don't think that's the way we ought to, maybe we ought to be more proactive in some sense in the long term, but it doesn't seem like this, if half the staff is against it, why would we shove it down their throats? You know, so it's not, and I do agree that the objections to it seem like a lot more specific and thought out and objective than the people who are in favor of it. So I don't think it's time.
Mike, you still have your hand up?
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Forgot to
Bob.
take her down.
Bob Mora? Yeah, I'm going to unplug it. Bob, I apologize. Go ahead. You're not on camera, but please,
Yeah.
Bob Mora?
It's not that I'm opposed to the thing. I guess I'm having a hard time understanding how we can operate on a 4-day, an individual working a 4-day and still maintaining the 5-day services we have. And to me, it would mean we'd have to close like on a Friday.
Right.
So that,
I mean,
I want to make sure I understood that. Okay.
Well, in our personnel subcommittee meeting, you know, Mike did have some ideas about that because he's had experience with this. We talked about it, and we, you know, although it's a great idea, we weren't sure that it would be easy to institute or work really well. And, you know, his idea was that we would actually be open more hours to the public, and
Yeah, you would.
if I remember correctly, Mike, it was called a 4-4-2 schedule.
Yeah, it's 4-4-4-4-2. The example would be a 2-person department. One would start on Monday and work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, be off Friday and Saturday, come back the next week and work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I'm sorry. Person that works Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is off Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. The person opposite them works Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, off Saturday, Sunday, then works Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and is off 4. So you cover the 5 days and longer hours for 5 days a week. The problem in our type of situation with a public office building like this, unlike I had with my divisions, Adam brought that up, is it could be a vacation day where there's nobody in the office, and or a sick day where there's nobody in the office because it's a Monday or a Friday when you only have one person scheduled. And it works well in certain environments, and I listened to Adam's comments on it, and I had some concerns of my own whether it would work for us. I think it could, but there would be times when there might be an office closed because one of the two people is out sick on a Friday or Monday, kind of thing,
At this
or on
time,
vacation.
we've heard from everyone, and there does not seem to be the will of the board to move this forward at this time, but thank you very much on that discussion. We'll move on then to B, the Bolton Center School air conditioning bid waive. Jim, would you like to introduce the topic?
So in accordance with our bid policy, if, the Board of Education, like the Board of Selectmen, has the ability to waive the bid process, and they are required under that ordinance to notify the Board of Selectmen, and so that's what this memorandum from the Superintendent of Schools is about.
So we do not,
You have to take no action.
no action.
It's just a notification.
Thank you. If there are no further questions, I don't see any hands up, so we'll move on then to C. Act and consider on waiving the bid for the skid steer, my favorite topic. I
Okay.
want to be the first to drop, no. Do I have to get training?
You'd have to be trained, yes.
Jim, would you like to?
So
discuss our
some
bid needs?
background information. We had a great discussion at the recent Board of Selectmen's meeting, and I think this, was a genesis from one of Mike's ideas and comments. So thank you, Mike. We actually kind of got lucky. We hit it. We started looking around at making phone calls right after the meeting, and we called Can Tractor. Can Tractor has 2 skid steers coming off of lease at Mohegan Sun, one of which has 25 hours on it, or did when we looked at it a week ago. We can purchase this for the money that we currently have in the capital budget.
For this current year.
In this current year, and eliminate the ask in the next capital budget for this, recognizing that this used skid steer is very gently used and is about $20,000 less of an expense than we would be expecting to purchase a new one. We did make a few other phone calls to see if there were similar opportunities with local dealers. We did not find any. So to that end, I put together a draft motion for consideration by the board to waive the competitive bidding process and just outright purchase this skid steer.
Before we have the motion put before us, is there any questions for Jim, Mike?
No, great job. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'll make the motion to waive the bid on this. 25 hours is, the machine hasn't even been driven around the block. It's
All right.
brand new.
We have a motion to waive the bid, and do I have a second, Adam? Adam seconds it. No further discussion?
Just a comment.
One comment by Bob Mora?
We purchased a trailer with the same process and saved ourselves almost $40,000 there on a machine that is still working. This is a great move, a great money saver, fully in favor of it.
I still want to be the first one to drive it. Having said that, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, so passes unanimously. Moving on then to consider an act on applying for the SAFER grant for the fire department. Jim?
Time is running out. We've talked about this an awful lot. I need the Board of Selectmen to make a decision. I hope for you guys, if you decide that we should move forward and apply for the SAFER grant, we'll do everything in our power to make the short deadline. If you decide otherwise, we will put our efforts into other things.
Bob DiPietro, you have the floor.
I hate to tell you this, but I spent over 2 hours reading the 80 pages involved with the SAFER grant. Even though I was fighting Adam initially against, for this. I feel it's a waste of our time to pursue this now. I really do. There's so much involved. It's just, unless we have an MOU with Vernon and Hebron and Coventry and all that, and combined all our efforts, I just can't see it. I really can't. And I'm ashamed that I spent so damn much time reading that 80 pages. Oh, gee.
I
Sorry.
think Mike probably still has a headache from doing the last FEMA grant.
The MOUs, Bob, I think anything that you might need where it refers to it, MOU to work with other towns and things like that are all handled through our contract and our agreements through the Talon County Switchboard, Talon County Dispatch Center. I think that's what would cover all of that because we're automatic dispatch. There's no asking for aid. It's already been agreed to. So I think that would cover the MOU parts, but you're right. It's a lot of work. There's no doubt. It's a lot of work. That's only my comment on those MOUs.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jim would like to add another comment.
And I will say that I had a long conversation with Chief Dixon, who's here with us tonight. And the agreement that we have is no matter what the board decides tonight, that, we're going to work together to come up with a comprehensive plan about the future needs of the fire department and try to, if we decide to put this off, which my sense is that's probably what's going to happen. We'll do the homework now so that we're ready the next time this grant opportunity comes around, if we decide to take advantage of it. And maybe if it's appropriate, Cam, you might just either let the chief comment or confirm that what I've said is accurate.
With the consensus of the board, we're going to ask our fire chief to please make a comment. Chief?
Good evening.
Evening, sir.
Yes, Jim, the town administrator, and Mike, my deputy chief, and I have all had talked about this, and it goes on both ways. Ultimately, I think we need a plan in the end. If we had the money, to apply for this grant, it takes some work. The finance department has done a lot of this in the past. Bob, you read those 80 pages. A number of those items are done already in the finance department. The mutual aid agreement is done. But if we applied for that and we got the grant, we still have to come up with a plan on how to implement that. And Mike, I'm not sure what the time factor to accept that grant is. Do you know?
I don't know what the time factor to accept it is, but you have, I think, up to a year to implement.
Okay, that's what I meant. Implement.
Yeah,
Okay.
I believe it's a year. I think it's the same as the other grant was, but it could even be longer now. They extended a lot of things for COVID, but it is what it is.
And I think as we've had conversation, I've had a short conversation with the first selectman, longer with Jim, town administrator. Mike and I have talked about the future also. I think it's definitely time to get a plan in place, evaluate what the needs are going to be going forward. And as Jim and I discussed, we also put a personal deadline on it when we want to, time frame of when we see a couple of these factors in this plan to be put together. So I concur with what the town administrator said.
So at this time, you're concurring, Chief, that it's not the right time to apply for the SAFER grant? Is that my understanding what you said?
No, I didn't say that because it can go both ways. If, as Selectman Aramita says, it's a year plus in order to use the monies after the grants are applied or after the grant's been approved, it might come right into the plan that Jim and I have been talking about. Historically, you apply for the grant and the day it has to be due, they don't tell you within a week. It's going to be months down the road. So that gives us time for that planning. So
Do we have before, do we,
Pam?
just one moment, please. Chief, do we have a financial plan before us from the fire department for one or two people at this time?
you do not have anything, you have nothing in writing. No.
Thank you. Bob Moore?
one of the things about having the plan in place and then applying for the grant is, one of the things, when this is a significant move in how we operate as a fire service, a combined volunteer and partially paid. And you want community support. If you want community support, the best way to do it is have a plan in place that shows this is why we have to do this, and this is how it works, and this is what the benefits of it. And I think it then sells itself with some help, obviously, from the department and a board like this. But you need that plan in place. And this is a major move. And I feel we should have the plan in place. And I would support it with a plan in place. I'll tell you right now.
Thank you. Bob DiPietro?
Pam, one more comment. Pam, one more comment for Bruce.
One moment, Chief. Bob DiPietro has his
After
hand up.
Bob. After Bob, please.
Thank you.
Okay, I just want to say that reading the 80 pages, I doubt very much that we would win a grant. You know, when you look at the total exposure and risks of our town compared to what the other applicants will probably have, I doubt very, very much that we will win an award. It's number one. Number two, you know, it's not like we have a lot of houses close together like Manchester near Spruce Street and all those 2 or 3 family houses close together. We don't have that kind of exposure. Our risk is very low. And looking at all the criteria that the Safer Grant offers, I just don't think it's going to be a winner. I do think we need a strategic plan, and I'll support that, but not because we're going to apply and win a grant from
Thank you, Bob.
FEMA.
Thank you. Chief
Mhm.
Dixon, you have the floor.
Yes.
Did you want to add something?
My other comment? Yeah, my
Yes.
other comment, just as Bob just mentioned, Bob Mora mentioned, as far as the community support, Jim and I talked about this, and Jim, maybe confirm it or not, we talked about really 4 different sides to this. Number 1 is operational. Number 2 is financial. Number 3 is labor laws, Department of Labor. And number 4 would be community support. So it's a complete package. It's not just one leg that has to be done.
Well, and I'll confirm that we did discuss all those, Chief. And actually, one more thing that you brought up as well is that, you know, combining departments with paid staff and volunteer staff needs to be well thought out and done well, because we also wouldn't want to alienate those volunteers that, you know, that are willing and able to, you know, put their commitment into the town. And so that integration needs to be well thought out and well planned, and have buy-in from the volunteer staff that are going to stay committed to the department. And I think Mike still is looking to speak.
Adam hasn't had a chance to speak yet. Would you like to add anything, sir, at this time?
No, I don't have anything to add to that.
Mike Aramita, would you like the floor again?
Yeah, just for a second. When you were paraphrasing Chief Dixon, I think Chief Dixon was agreeing with Jim's statement that they're going to work together to come up with a plan, not that he was going one side or the other on the Safer Grant. It was more of we're going to work together and see if we can get everything in writing ahead of time before we apply. When it comes to grants, sometimes it's not necessarily, well, a good example was the forestry truck. I put my ear to the ground and heard that was a year that they were going to plan on trying to retire old repurposed equipment. And it was a perfect year for us. In a regular year, we wouldn't have stood a chance to get that, because there would have been a lot of other people ahead of us. But that was one year where our 53-year-old Army truck came right to the top of the pile. And we were lucky. I heard the grumblings about it, and I said, this is something we should try for. And I didn't even tell the chief that I did it at the time. So that was a good time. You can never predict, unfortunately, who's going to be at the top of the pile that year, because the people that decide the grants have different criteria each year. Some years it's, well, last year, the highest priority was given to laid off firefighters. That might not be the same criteria this year. So you don't really know until you submit, and sometimes you have to submit over and over and over to get it. You know, I'm happy that this is coming to be spoken about. You know, 6 months ago, this was a hush hush subject around here, and I'm glad that people are talking about it. I don't think you'll alienate any of the current active firefighters because they're tired of the day-to-day things that take up their time. They're not tired of going to emergencies, but they get tired of coming in and doing the mundane tasks that have to be done on a daily basis. I still will support going for the SAFER grant, although I understand that the board wants to get a plan in place first, and I can live with that. I said last time, I can live with what the board does. I think that, you know, we get a plan in place, and at least we're talking about the necessity. And when I bring it up the next time, hopefully people won't say they never heard of it before. So,
Thank you, Chief and Deputy Chief. At this time, I would ask that the board, would you consider asking the department if they would please put the fire department, please, in conjunction with the town administrator, put together a possible plan to bring forward that we could show to the town as well. Do I have a consensus from the board to ask for that?
Yeah.
Moore says yes, yes. We have 5 yeses. Thank you very much. Then we will ask that you do that for us, and we will hopefully have another opportunity for this grant, but we will see what we can do moving a plan forward that you bring forward to us and that we'll show to the town. Thank you very much, Chief.
Mrs. First Selectman, another comment. In doing this type of study, sometimes with outside agencies, there'd be fees involved with this. Is there any type of monetary value, or that we can go forward to attack something like this? And I'm not sure. I think the town administrator might have checked on this a little bit, but we could be looking in the range of $15,000, $20,000.
Jim, do you have a comment, sir?
So I think my recommendation to the Board of Selectmen at this point, since we're not moving forward very fast with planning of an addition to the fire station, would be to, you know, go to town meeting and move some of the monies that we have at that $38,000 in the capital budget into a project that would allow for us to do this, and then replace that money in next year's budget. But we don't have money planned in this year's budget or next year's budget to do that.
Adam?
I do want to call the board's attention to the congressional directed spending opportunities that Senator Murphy and Senator Blumenthal and Congressman Courtney opened up and the applications close on March 19th. $15,000 or $20,000 for a strategic plan for a fire department that's looking after this pretty historic period of time might be the kind of thing that they would consider, and it's not a huge amount of money. They're trying to spread that money around, is what I'm hearing from Senator Murphy's office, you know, to hopefully get something to lots of towns. So if that's an ask, maybe the fire department would like to take the lead in applying for it, because they could apply for it themselves, or we could apply for it, I believe, because it's either one.
Adam, if you could check into that for us and get back to us on how that would work, that'd be fantastic. Thank you very much.
We
Jim?
only have it's on our agenda tonight. It's 2 items down on the agenda. There isn't much time. The applications are due March 19th.
Right.
So, you know, this is something that's on the agenda. I sent it out to the Board of Selectmen earlier this week, asked them to look at the portal and see what kinds of projects were there, and to be able to come to the meeting tonight with some ideas. And here's one idea.
Chief, if you just hold on, can you hold on for some more, a little bit, to just 2 items down on the agenda?
The chief is fine with that. Yes. Yep.
Thank you. Bob DiPietro?
Yeah, I think I saw somewhere in the middle of those 80 pages, we could apply this for the SAFER grant just for doing that study. And that study would be that would be it. You know what I'm saying?
I believe you're right, Bob.
Bob, in looking at that grant, did you see how many pages of application form there was? Is this a simple form or is it something that's going to take 3 weeks and a Sunday?
No, I don't think that would be a problem. I don't.
It's due
I
on the
think
15th.
what Mike already did was enough.
It's due on the 15th, I believe.
There's an opportunity to get planning money out of it. I think we ought to at least look at it.
Let's go around the board then. Is there an interest to applying for the SAFER grant that's due on the 15th? With all due haste, to apply for $15,000 or $20,000. I would entertain a number for planning.
I have to look at that again and make sure we have what already is needed because we don't have much time.
So
I'll do it again, small.
I think we should go after the other grant as well.
Yeah, why not?
The CDS grant, at least we know it's more local, or the people who are involved in it are more local, might be more willing to give us something, especially on this side of the river.
So the way, we'll come to that in just a minute then. All right, then
Okay.
I do not hear that there is an interest in applying for the SAFER grant at this time. We'll move on to the next item then. We'll move on to E, consider an act on the draft referendum dates for the referendum dates and town meeting dates. In your packet under 4E, we have the town meeting date set for, if you would approve it, set for May 9th on a Tuesday or Tuesday, May 16th. Do we need a hard and fast date at this time?
We do, and I think my recommendation would be the 16th. It just gives us a little more time for preparation.
Does that give us enough time between May 16th and May 23rd for the referendum date?
There's nothing going on at the town
It's-
meeting. That's gonna affect the referendum.
Mr. Moore, do you have anything else?
Board clerk has her hand up.
Hi, Linda. Would you like to add something?
When you get a chance, can we go back to the skid steer motion whenever you have time in the meeting?
Linda, I can email you that if Kathy hasn't already.
No, I have the motion. It's just that the motion was made to waive the bid, but the way the motion is written, you also have to approve the purchase.
Ah,
Hearing that too.
as we all smile, Linda, you're a good catch.
Almost.
That is what it says.
Going back then, at this time, we're going to postpone item 4E. We will go back and reconsider 4C, the waiving of the bid for the skid steer, which we did waive the bid. At this time, I need a second motion to approve the purchase of such skid steer.
So moved.
Don't worry about it.
Moved by Bob Morris, seconded by Mike DePietro. Is there any further comment?
You probably have to see the amount of money you're authorizing. to
$60,000.
spend.
We have 60, and would you please add it to the motion? And I hope that's accepted as $60,000 or less. Is that correct, Mr. Moore?
Correct, more or less.
Adam, you ought to hire her.
Mhm.
All right, hearing no further discussion, all in favor, say aye.
I
And that passes unanimously. Linda, well done.
Thank you.
No, thank you, ma'am. Going back to 4E, consider an act on the town meeting dates, and we have before us a recommendation for May 16th. Do I have a motion to accept May 16th as a town meeting date? Bob Mora, Bob DePietro makes the motion.
Second.
Bob Mora, the pair of Bob's seconds it. Is there any comment? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
I,
I,
Aye, it passes unanimously. May 16th for the town meeting date. And looking at the town referendum dates, Jim, would you like to address those?
We did discuss this with both registrars of voters, and they have agreed to the following dates. They're in your package. Tuesday, May 23rd, Tuesday, June 6th, Tuesday, June 20th, Tuesday, July 11th, and Tuesday, July 25th. We figured that we would do this and try to put all the possible dates out there for your consideration at this time.
Adam, I would ask for a motion then to accept Tuesday, May 23rd as the referendum date. And if needed, the other 4 dates that followed, June 6th, June 20th, June 11th, and June 25th as possible referendum dates.
So moved.
Thank you. Second? Bob Morris seconds. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
I,
Aye, that passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving on then to F, consider an act on the CDS and the other grants. At this time, Jim, would you like to make an opening comment?
So it's interesting, Pam and I got an email about congressional directed spending grants, which are, really an exciting opportunity because there's no match. And then the following day, I got a phone call from Selectman Teller, who had had a similar conversation with some of his contacts. These are great opportunities. Two particular areas, I think, for government entities such as ourselves, and I think one was general government services and the other was infrastructure. And we've talked about a lot of different things, right? I mean, we've talked about a water line from Manchester. We've talked about, in addition to the fire department, we've talked about track and soccer field at the school. I mean, there are so many things that could potentially fall into these grant opportunities, and we can apply for more than one, and we can apply for them with both of the gentlemen, which are Dick Blumenthal and Chris Murphy. We can apply for multiple grants with both of them. It looked like, looking at the projects that were out there, most of the projects were under $2 million that got approved.
I did have a
the-
discussion. I apologize. I did have a discussion with someone from Senator Blumenthal's office, and his recommendation was that we apply for these same grants from the House side and also from the Senate side, because they go to different committees and you have a better opportunity. You would be possible to get multiple awards from the different chambers, not for the same project, but depending which committee has more interest in one type of project over another.
The senators are coordinating their
Theirs together,
theirs together, but the House is a completely separate pool of money
correct?
that it goes through Joe Courtney's office. So we should apply to both, whether we do the same applications or different applications. And I'm kind of just wondering, I mean, the numbers that they're talking about, the modular building is a possible thing. We don't have another source of funding for that other than our own budget, right? And it's a 300,000 plus number, which is replacing a building that has to come down, which is an infrastructure issue. Maybe that's an option too. I mean,
All right, I would like to open it up.
$300,000 or $400,000.
I would like to open it up for suggestions as to what we could apply for. Adam, would you like to start?
Well, I would, sort of running down the list, I would certainly say the modular building is a possibility. For smaller things, the fire department's strategic planning study, the HVAC for the schools, right?
That was just Bolton Center School,
Bolton Center. School.
because the high school has air
Right.
conditioning.
Do you remember how much that was for?
They had prices, I
They had
think,
3 of them, right?
anywhere between 3 million and 7 million. It's an expensive
Well,
project.
One of the things is I sort of looked at the capital projects we have. The soccer fields are a good option. The Herrick Park soccer fields.
That was on my list.
Sort of the right price kind of thing. You're looking for something that's not huge, but not trivial, and is a specific thing that they can come and
Stand in front of and get their picture taken.
I was gonna say cut a ribbon.
Yeah.
the high school soccer, the high school athletic field project. I mean, anything that we have sort of already in the works. And even one little one is we just caught money for water suppression, water and fire suppression at $50,000 a year. One cistern, that's another kind of optional thing for $50,000, and we have those like practically off the rack. We can say, you give us $50,000, we can put one in. So those were the ones I sort of identified as, or I suppose even the BCS fire alarm upgrade, which we had in this year's budget at $40,000.
Did they cut that out though?
No, not yet.
No, it's still.
Like I thought
We didn't cut that.
we didn't cut that.
No.
Oh,
I-
they reduced the price because they got an off the rack system.
Oh, okay.
That's what it was.
I'd make a recommendation that we go for one that's fairly expensive and one that's fairly inexpensive. And try it that way.
So in
And,
the recommendations that I had from this
Mm-hmm.
person who I was speaking to is apply up to 4 of them. And so that the different sub
groups,
groups that will be analyzing them can choose between some of them, depending on what their mission is for that particular year, which,
we
or
know how
their-
that works.
yeah, just like that.
Yep.
So
I
would like
think-
to ask, just a moment, please, Mike. I would like to ask the board right now, just take a moment, think about these items. If you had, is there anybody else that has another item to put onto this list that we haven't addressed so far with Adam's list and Jim's?
Just the biggest one that we haven't talked about.
Taking down that road.
Well,
We already have
yeah, we had that.
the money,
No,
that's
I was
federal
thinking
money.
of public water supply. It's about $1.8 million.
would-
The water, that's the water line, the water system bringing in water
Yeah,
from
yeah,
Manchester
public
through
water
our
from
business
Manchester.
district
Yeah.
on 6 and 44.
We'll never be able to get any other.
And that's about 1.4 or 1.2.
Well, it was 1.4 originally.
We've got a price that it's a little over, I think the one that, so I think it was 2 years ago, the Yukon Engineering School did a mock-up project for us, and I think it's around 2 or 2.2 at this point.
At this point, or that was
At
the.
that point. It's still probably in that neighborhood.
range.
Was there anything else on your list, Adam?
Well, the only other thing was, for me, was the Heritage Farm water supply or bathrooms.
So the water supply, they've received a grant
Okay, I already got it.
from the Hartford Foundation for Giving, and that's just a few $1,000s. The bathrooms are definitely a possibility.
Because there again, that's something, it's a historic site. It would make it more accessible to the public
Yeah.
and more usable. It's part of their master plan. And, again, it's very picturesque, so it makes a great picture. So,
Yeah,
and
I don't think they want to stand in front of a latrine.
well, but given the activity that's going to be there this summer,
Oh, yeah,
there might be an encampment.
Yeah.
All that, you could say, hey, these are things that are going to happen this summer, but could happen more often or more frequently if you had bathrooms.
Yep.
So
And
it'd
not
be
a pretty
perfect
potty.
place to announce,
Right. What
a grant is,
An encampment,
with a bunch of French kids who are digging,
they're all dirty, smudge on the
French
nose.
and American kids, right? So, I mean, those are just ideas that maybe would be
Yep.
good opportunities.
All right, let's go. Bob DePietro, did you have any items to add? Hearing no other items to add, Jim, you didn't pick up another. So let's go down the list then, and we'll see if we can narrow this down. Is there an interest in asking for money for the modular classroom? A modular office space?
Let's see.
It's something we've already funded, correct?
Yes,
Well, it's in our budget.
It's in our budget, but
Not
full budget,
expended.
but not expended. And
Not
so if we
expended,
get
yeah.
that money from another source, that money shifts over to something else.
yeah,
Like
but
Like a,
I'd rather vote for something that the people haven't voted to spend the money on yet, rather than something they already have. You know, the projects that haven't hit them in the face yet, so to speak.
Plus, it's not permanent.
Yeah, it's not permanent.
Oh, thank you.
Right.
Going on then, we'll hold that one then. How about number 2, $20,000 for a strategic plan for the fire department?
Yes.
I have one yes from Mr. Mora. Mr. DePietro says yes.
Yes.
We have 5 yeses. So that we'll add that. Ask for is $20,000 the appropriate amount, Michael?
I would think so.
Thank you. Then we'll ask for $20,000. We will look at number 3 then, the HVAC for the Bolton Center School. Do you remember how much that was, James?
there were several different options. So, and I don't know that I think the problem with that is I don't think the school has narrowed down
No.
which
Which-
option they would go for.
All right, if the board has no negative reaction to that, we will hold that for the HVAC because we have not discussed it with the schools. We have been asked by the schools for a high school soccer field with track for $2.2 million. Is there an interest in applying for that?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I don't see you getting it any other way.
3 yeses, 4, Bob DePietro is a yes?
No, not yes.
1 no?
No.
It's 4 yeses and 1 no, so we will add that to the list for the present time. $50,000 for a fire suppression project.
I'd rather put the fire station addition in place of that.
So there's 1 no. Is there any other ones saying yes for the fire suppression dollars?
I mean, if there's nothing else, I'd go with that, but I think we should try for something of substance since we do have money in that account.
So you will hold that for now?
Mhm.
We'll hold that. Let's move on then to the Bolton Center School
Nothing.
upgrade
Fire
for
alarm.
fire alarm for $40,000. Thank you.
That's probably something that might get a good small amount.
Is there an interest in the $40,000 for the fire alarm system for the Bolton Center School upgrade?
Was it 42, Adam, in the capital?
it's like 40, I think it was 40. That's what I thought, that it's 40 at 40 equal.
40, okay.
exact. Then there was a public address system at 55 and a high school, well, those are high school geothermal pump at 21.
Why do we need it?
Yeah,
Isn't
the
that-
fire alarm at the Bolton Center School is aged and, it has been the source of false alarms, although they have rectified some of that. There hasn't, to my knowledge, there hasn't been as many false alarms in recent history. It's old enough, it needs to be replaced.
Yeah, you're not
They were
gonna get
having,
parts for it.
they're having parts issues, trying to get repair for it. And so it's one of those important issues they thought was, they wanted to bring it forward.
And as a safety issue, it probably would get a good review.
Do I hear, Bob DePietro, you're shaking your head no? That's not one you'd like to add to the list?
Me, no.
Mr. Armita?
I'd rather leave that in the budget.
I've got 2 to hold it. Mr. Teller?
It would be a yes, but. And I feel it strongly.
Yeah, I mean, neither. It's not worth,
All right, we'll hold that
Okay,
at the
let's see
present
what we got.
time. the Heritage Farm bathroom money. Do we have a number,
We don't.
Mr.
that's the
Rupert?
thing.
And we have not discussed that with
No.
the,
That might
uh,
not, if we get the community sector septic system built, that's not gonna be a large investment. It'd be
Mm-mm.
a grinder pump hookup, it's probably, you're talking about $5,000.
but this is to build bathrooms.
It's to build a
Mhm.
structure.
Build the structure,
Oh.
it's probably.
And we don't
That's
have-
a lot of money, yeah, sorry.
We don't have enough detail on that at this time.
No, we don't, no, that.
There may be a number in their master plan, but I don't know how, I don't know how good it is.
Number.
We'll hold that then at this
Yeah,
time.
no.
The water line coming from Manchester through our business district for
Yes.
shall we put a number
2.2.
to it, 2.2 at this time? Adam is a yes, Bob DePietro nodding his head.
Yep.
Mr. Aramita,
I could go for that.
Have hydrants in one section.
we
of
have
town.
unanimous for that. So at this time, I have 3 check marks, one for the $20,000 for the strategic fire department. A second one for the soccer fields and track for 2 million. Is it 2.2 million?
2.2.
2.2 million. And for the water line for, how much was that for?
2.2.
2.2 million. So we have 3 projects, one small one and 2 large ones. Is there another
those small-
There's a-
recommendation
There's a
for a small
couple,
one?
there's a couple that we had on our list that we did not discuss.
Right.
One was the Herrick Park soccer fields and the other, I think, was the fire station addition.
We have not heard,
We-
had a report from the temporary building commission on the fire department addition. Do you have information, Jim, that we don't have? I'm sorry, let's go back to the Herrick Park soccer fields. How much was that for?
That would be what, 90,000, something like that, because we've already put away a significant amount.
We have some funding in the capital budget already.
Yeah, we've been putting 30 a year towards it. And we've got what, 3 or 4 more years or 4 or 5 more years before we do it.
Adam's looking at his
Right,
notes.
30 a year, so this year was 30. I don't know how many more years we were planning to
Did
go
it
out.
show the next year or two?
I can get updated pricing from the town engineer. He's the one who's given us the pricing
Right.
up to date. So I think you could say that it would be based on updated pricing from the town engineer.
Yeah, because again, that's one, it's, if you do it now, or it's gonna take us another 5 to 8 years before we. And that would solve all the issues on athletics field.
Right, Drainage
Period.
and safety and,
In Herrick,
Everything.
at Herrick,
well,
at both of
yeah,
them.
at both, really, I mean.
Bob DePietro?
There's something I've been trying and meaning to bring up. We have not discussed this, I don't think, earlier. And that is, there are many other towns that are building solar farms. If you look at our packet of the payments, you see we're spending a small portion of electricity to Eversource. And there's towns like East Windsor that are really, really capitalizing on solar energy farms. And I'm wondering if we might have not, if we had dropped the ball at all, not looking at where we can capitalize on that.
Bob, at this time, I would ask you to hold that suggestion, please, because we have not completed the discussion on whether or not to add the Herrick Park soccer fields into the mix. Would you please hold that idea that you have for the solar farms? Thank you. Going back to the Herrick Park soccer fields, is there an interest to put in, put that, a recommendation in to apply for a grant on the condition that, with the condition that the dollar amount will be looked at by the town engineer and the town administrator and placed in this application?
Yes.
Adam's a yes. Mr. Moore is a yes.
Yeah.
Ms. Aramita is a yes. Bob DePietro?
No.
is a no, 4 yeses and 1 no. We will place the Herrick ball fields, soccer, combined soccer field and other safety needs. And there was another one,
Fire station addition.
thank you.
Mhm.
And how much was that for? Do we have it? We don't have an
We
idea
don't
yet.
have a number.
We don't have an exact number. We had an architect give us a guesstimate for a relatively modest addition at 1.7.
Mike, did I include living, additional quarters on the second level?
No,
Because I think that's one of the things, weren't they considering that?
Well, I mean, if
we were
You-
considering office space and stuff like that, but
we considered office space, we considered an emergency operations center was part of the discussion.
Right.
But you know, our master plan, the master plan that gets done for the fire department may determine that that's a consideration.
Yeah, to be a little, to apply for money for an addition, at the same time, you're asking for a strategic plan. They might not like that too much.
Mike, I really think this 5-year plan will tell us if we really need to go that route as
So let me also throw this out there. I think all of the information that Pam collected and Adam collected independently, not knowing that each other were collecting information, is that it looks like this opportunity will be around again next year.
okay.
Yeah,
And maybe this is one that we consider deferring and plan now on making that application
Yeah,
next year and having the backup of the master plan to support what the need for the addition is.
I concur with that because we're talking probably a $250,000 to $500,000 difference.
At this time, I'd like to go back then to a question
Yeah.
that I have, and that's on the fire department strategic plan for $20,000. I thought the strategic plan was for personnel. Am I mistaken?
No, I think it's a holistic
It's a
plan.
holistic-
That's what I think that's what we really talk about. It'll
Yep.
talk about personnel, it'll talk about equipment, it'll talk about the structure.
Yep.
These master plans are really pretty comprehensive and they take a lot into consideration. And it doesn't come without some work by the staff of the fire department. This is, the consultants put the plan together and collect the data, but, it does require some effort for those who are, part of the day-to-day operations to participate.
Then I'll ask one further question on that. Is $20,000 enough to have that much detail put into a strategic plan? Would 25,000 be a better number?
yeah, I think so. I think so, Pam.
Sorry, this is-
All right, let's ask for 25,000. Let's go back then. We'll ask for 25,000 for the fire department strategic plan. At this time, we will hold the fire station addition for the 1.7 as we're getting the rest of the pieces put together. So at this time, we do have 4 items. First, the fire department, $25,000 strategic plan. Second, the soccer field and track for the Bolton High School for 2.2 million. And we will ask with the board's consensus for a water line through our business district brought from Manchester for a total of 2.2 million for that project. And the fourth one was a rebuild of the Herrick Park soccer field and appropriate drainage. Do we have a number on a guesstimate?
And the agreement was that we would base that ask on updated numbers from the town engineer.
With updated numbers from current pricing and engineer. All right, we have 4 projects on the table. Do I have a motion to apply for these? Oh, hold on. Bob DePietro, I said I'd come back to you on the solar farm. I apologize for cutting you off before. I think it's a great idea, but I think that's something we should put in the hopper for another year to build a plan for an ask, where we would do it, how, on
Whether it's rooftop or
whether it's
whether
rooftop or a car cover or would that be agreeable to you, Mr. DePietro? Very good. Do you have anything else you wanted to add about the solar farm? I think it's a great idea.
I do too. I think it's long coming for this town
We-
to have kind of solar.
And we did
presence.
have an energy commission at the time that had some of those things in the background. Mr. Moore, just a minute, just a minute, moment, please. Did anybody, Bob DePietro, did you want to add something to that? Okay,
Here.
Bob Moore,
I'm sorry.
go ahead.
It's a long day and.
Yes, sir.
I'm losing it. My apologies.
It's after 8.
No, the school is looking to do new roofs. And part of that, we were looking at solar on the various roofs of the schools utilizing that space. They would also consider at one time the field in back of the leaching field in back of the elementary school as a solar farm. All these are areas that, if we have a plan, could be in place that we could apply grants for. Just go with it.
We did have a company that wanted to do those 2 projects, and I don't know where that's gone to.
But the numbers didn't work, and the problems also have to do with
The
roof
roofing.
structure
Yeah.
and
It wasn't
weight
ready.
limits and all that.
Okay,
I guess I would add, if we're thinking about for next year, we talk about asking for $50,000 for the mapping of our cemeteries to be able to digitize them, which is something that is a very great
That'd be a
expense.
unique one, I'm sure.
Maybe that's something they want to do, but maybe we could find someone. All right, so this time we have the 4 before us, and do I have a motion?
I move that we authorize the town administrator to apply for grants for those 4 projects with those maximum figures.
And seeking out the number for the updated number for the Herrick Park with the
With the-
town engineer.
with the current pricing for the Herrick Park
Mike-
athletic
Mike-
field.
Mike
And-
is a second. Thank you.
Yep. if Bob's doing
further-
it, that's fine too.
Any
Won't
further,
do that.
any further comments? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
I,
Aye.
Aye, it passes unanimously. Thank you, guys, for being so
Madam
thoughtful on that.
First Selectman,
Mr. Moore,
this night, can I add another item, appointment to the agenda? I want to put it here in the new business.
I actually have a couple of items, Bob.
Okay.
all right, at this time, we have some new business, some items to add to under new business and it'd be new business G. Could we have Mr.
One,
Mr.
We have a
Rupert?
couple of items. One is an appointment letter. And I don't know if that got sent to you guys or not.
it went out today in the supplemental.
sorry, I didn't see that.
I did see it today.
It is for Jessica Webb,
Yes.
and she has given us an interest form for the Water Pollution Control Authority as a full member. And she writes that the reason she's interested, she's concerned about the water quality and would like to serve the community. And when asked pertinent background information for her, she's a construction manager for the MDC for over 10 years of storm water and sewer experience. So she has a background in this. She lives on 93 Volpe Road. And this is Jessica Webb.
And
Just on her experience, I'd vote for her.
You could get her on the wetlands commission. huh?
She's the most qualified to have on the commission.
Mr. Rupert,
Maybe perhaps what we should do is have a motion to add the 3 things that I have here on my
And
list
we'll add that to it.
and then act on them each separately.
Yeah.
So
I'll make a motion that we add the 3 items on Jim's list.
okay, one would be the appointment letter, one would be the planning and zoning request for Board of Selectmen comment on the cannabis regulations, and the other would be a grant application that would be put together through the fire marshal's office and the senior and social services director for Knox boxes.
so we have those 3 items. I need a motion
You've
to,
moved already.
I'm sorry, Bob, Michael moved it, unknown what was on them. But Peter's about to second it, right?
Yeah.
Thank you, buddy. So we have a second. All in favor, say aye of
Aye.
opening.
I
I,
make a motion, we appoint Miss Webb.
Favors,
Miss-
and that passes unanimously. Thank you. Mike Aramita,
I make a motion, we appoint, is it Miss or Mrs. Webb?
Mrs.
Well-
She is, goes by her maiden name,
Goes
so
by maiden name.
Okay.
Ms. Webb,
Okay, to the Water Pollution Control Authority for whatever positions are open.
and Mr. Aramita makes the motion.
It's a
Mr.
4-year position.
Mr. Mora seconds it. It's a 4-year position. He comments. Any further comments? All in favor, say aye.
I,
Aye, passes unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Webb. The second one, Jim, what's the second
Is
one?
it- You have an email here in your package from the chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission, Tom Manning. Planning and Zoning Commission received comments from the 2 residents on a public hearing.
uh-oh, we lost you.
he timed out.
Yeah, I think so, Bob.
Come back, Jim.
We lost you. We may be holding our own meeting, Bob.
Well, then I'll be happy to give my 2 cents. Linda, can you hear us?
I
Yes,
don't think- Oh,
Yeah, Gentlemen, I can hear you. Gentlemen, I can hear you. This is Bruce.
Okay, Bruce.
we'll just have to wait until they come back.
Hey, Mike, just a reminder about Carrie's
yeah,
grant.
yep,
The,
yep,
Thank
the
you.
other thing. Yep,
thank you.
no problem. I had that on my list. Okay, what did I do here?
Lost Bob.
I screwed up my computer. Back to this. Okay, there it is right there. Hello. Okay. I'll let him know. Okay, bye. Just got a call from Pam. They had a power shutdown on the computer. They'll be back to us in a little bit.
You need the fire department to respond to check on the power?
I don't think it's, I think it's just something. What? Oh. Yes.
Putting a new updated fire alarm system in the center school. Look at the town hall.
No problem. It's just the computer power. It's not the building. Oh, okay. What did I do here? Hey, Cooper. What are you doing, buddy? I got a real scare this afternoon. I was half asleep on the couch. My dog starts howling and barking on the back deck. He comes flying through the doggy door and heading up the stairs with another dog right behind him that I had never seen before.
Oh, boy.
Oh,
It was a little pit bull that belongs to my neighbor's son from across the street. I had never seen it before, but friendly little thing, but scared the crap out of me. I see both of them heading up the stairs to the bedrooms. If I'd known it was
your
Pat,
bride's not home.
no, if I'd known it was Patrick's dog, I'd have let them both go. But I didn't know whose dog it was. It's not the first time he's brought friends home, though. I was asleep on the couch one day when my last dog comes in the door and he's kind of growling a little, and I look over my shoulder and there's a German Shepherd standing right at my head. That doggy door has been a help in letting him in and out, but it lets everybody else in too.
It wasn't a bobcat or a skunk or something.
No, so far it hasn't been any of those critters, thank God.
We had a solar powered laptop.
There we go. I hit the mouse or something and shut it
Actually, we
off.
had a wind power line. Yeah, there we go.
Farmington. Their deal on a percentage of the pay. You get it put in for nothing.
We are. I can pause if you like. I haven't, no. We're back live. So as soon as you're settled in, we can resume. I was about halfway, I think, through this.
Are we still on recording?
Yep, we're recording.
Thank you, everybody, for your patience. Our apologies. Jim has the floor.
So we were talking about the email that received from Chairman Manning. Wednesday night is there is a continuation of their public hearing with regard to the cannabis regulations. And they would love to hear from the Board of Selectmen. If you have something that you'd like to provide to them, I think the best thing is to either send an email to Patrice Carson, to Mike D'Amato, or to Danielle Palazzini, or
So the question before us is, would the board like to act as a whole, a unanimous, to come up with a comment to that board for their public hearing? Or would you like to act as individual members, as individuals, members of the community, and not as members of the board? Bob DiPietro.
I would personally, although I never, my father must have scared the crap out of me when I was a kid, because I don't really know about cannabis, but I would say we could recommend that be treated and handled the same way alcohol beverages are handled on town property.
Well, this isn't about town property. This is just about
This is-
whether they'll be allowed as retail
Right.
sales and where.
Oh, sorry.
Not medical. recreation.
but I think they've generally followed that path, Bob. I think they've generally, in their regulations would generally permit them wherever a package store would be permitted.
Well, they're actually talking about three possibilities: prohibiting everywhere, allowing them like package stores, or I think there's a third choice. I forget what they're.
Continuing the
Just
moratorium.
not acting on it currently.
Oh, continuing the moratorium, which they can't do indefinitely.
Right.
So I agree with Bob DiPietro. I think cannabis stores should be treated the same way liquor stores are treated.
Bob Moore.
Personally, I'm not in favor of having them, so I would oppose the board allowing them as part of their regulation.
Mike Aramita.
I would go along with regulating them as package stores and zoning them as package stores.
And I have a different take on this. And I spoke to a small town in far western Massachusetts, and they did allow them, and they found that it was a great cost to their police department. It brought in a lot of problems into the town, and he did not recommend it. At this time, my recommendation would be to have a moratorium of 3 years, or a number that the board decides upon, and to, I would say, watchful waiting and see what happens in other communities before we act on this. We're a very small community, and a negative impact, once you open the door, you can't close the door behind us, and it could be a negative impact to the town. So I don't hear that we have a consensus to go forward as a board, I don't believe. Am I counting wrong, Adam?
I think it's 3 to 1 to 1. So I guess there's a majority, but not a consensus, is how I would put it. Just remember though, that if they open, if a retail store opens in your town, you get a cut of the sales tax, which is the only cut the state gives towns of revenue sharing from an actual tax. So it's a whole different ballgame. If somebody does, you know, the more people it attracts, the more money the town gets, which
Mhm.
I can't think of any other sin that we get that out of. So,
I understand that, and is it 3%, I believe? It's a cut. Would it be enough to increase our police protection if it were needed? I do not believe it. We have that information before us.
I think it's needed. I think that's probably, you know, that may be one town in Massachusetts experience, but Massachusetts had a very go slow on these. That might be the only one for a fairly great distance. For
Be a
Bolton,
draw.
there's going to be one all around. I mean, there's probably 3 or 4 towns within short driving distance that are going to have dispensaries. So it's not going to be, Bolton's not going to be the major choice for
No.
out of.
Well, we don't know what's being proposed. If it is more alluring, more attractive than what some of these others are. We don't have any of that information either. But I hear what you're saying.
I mean, and if it's properly cited, that shouldn't be really an issue. I don't, any more than a bar is, or you know.
I have I was frightened of it too, as Bob DiPietro was mentioning in his opening statement. As a young person, being told you have one body and you should take care of it, and drugs are altering. But that was there's a different will of the populace right now. So at this time, my recommendation, but that says one member of this board, is that we individually contact the planning and zoning with our own personal views on it. Is that a comfort with the board?
Well, I'm not in favor of the board. We have a zoning board and, you know, I've had my ons and off with the zoning board, positive and negative. And
Really?
As you ever,
really,
Have you?
as we sit across the table.
From the former chairman?
But with that said, you know, it is the zoning board, the members that we elected that makes that decision. And I've gone there as an individual to try and support something or oppose something as an individual. We've never gone before as a board. And I don't think that's a good precedent.
Thank you. If there's no further, Mike Armita?
No, I was agreeing with Bob. It is their job to choose. And if they're trying to lay it off on us, shame on them. Let them make the decision.
Well, I mean, maybe you're united in saying that you have faith and trust in those that are elected to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
I don't think I go there.
That's a good statement. I can go along with that.
I
That
do have
makes-
trust, but because I don't go along with that statement, let me clarify. It's because this is a public hearing. They're asking to hear from the public, and they're asking us to, do we have an opinion on this as a board? And I think we do not have an unanimous opinion as a board, but we do have some agreement, but not full. So I would ask that the board members, if you have an interest, please contact the tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. They will be having the hearing. So-
Okay.
Excuse me, the question?
They're hybrid.
Oh, they are hybrid. Okay.
Hybrid, yeah.
So the answer to that is hybrid. So anybody listening to this in the Community Voice channel, please consider tuning in tomorrow and getting your voice heard or coming to Town Hall for 7 p.m. Moving on to number 3 then.
We're now on a grant application that's joint between the deputy fire marshal and the senior and social services director. They would like the permission of the Board of Selectmen to apply for a grant for Knox boxes in the amount of $5,000. And they feel that the in-kind match could be done through the installation of the Knox boxes, which would be about $250 of value. And They would apply for this. It has a short turnaround time. So we would have to act on this tonight if we're willing to allow them to move forward with the grant application.
Do I have comments or you would like to make a motion, Mr. Armita?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion. But I'd like to make a comment first. One of the things that is coming about, because we're getting a lot of interest from the seniors to have Knox boxes on their homes. And in the fire apparatus, we have the Knox box lock system where you have to type in basically your social security number, and then you can unlock the key that opens the Knox box. We didn't get one for the new service truck, and we would like to ask them to put the cost of $1,000 onto that grant to buy the Knox box safe locking mechanism for the new medical service truck. So to go along with that, and if it comes down to a matching 5%, the fire department will pick up that 5% if they need to.
So at this time, you're making a motion to apply, to approve.
The 25
service-
boxes at 5,000 plus another 1,000 for the key safe that goes in the medical response vehicle.
And that is your motion, sir?
Yes.
I'll
I'll
second.
sec-
Bob,
second that.
DePietro seconds. Any further comments or questions for the motion maker?
No.
Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
I,
Motion
Any-
passes unanimously. Is that the three? We're good?
Yep, now you're on 5A, ongoing business.
Thank you. On 5A, diversity training dates, Jim has had a number of efforts put forward to put this together, and he has a report tonight.
We have dates. We have the dates and times of April 18th, 1 to 4.
And this is for employees?
There's three different dates.
I'm sorry, April?
So it's the first date is Tuesday, April 18th, 1 to 4 p.m.
Yep.
Wednesday, April 19th, 9 to 12 p.m.
PM?
Uh,
AM.
sorry,
9 a.m. to 12.
Oh.
Okay.
that's AM.
Yeah, that never should have been a PM. Noon
Right.
should never be PM.
The A had a short leg on the right-hand side.
Yep.
And then also on Wednesday, April 19th, 6 to 9 p.m. so that we can invite board and commission members.
So the daytime hours you're recommending, Jim?
April 19th is 6 to 9 p.m.
Jim's
we need-
recommend,
Separate sessions.
So it's 3 separate sessions. 2 are both on April 19th and 1 on April the 18th.
Are they live or virtual?
So it is 100% virtual.
Oh, it is. Okay.
We can accommodate, groups coming together and doing it in a setting such as this or at Notch Road with our meeting space over there, which we will have to do for some of our staff groups.
Yeah.
That we can take 25 people in each session.
and no,
it-
And no
it's-
act,
It's not a bad session either. You break out into groups using Zoom and things. It was pretty worthwhile last year.
thank you. There's no action needed. So if there are no further questions, move on to B, review the draft financial policy for the Student Activity Fund. And I do believe there's action needed for that.
so we tried to redraft this based on the board's comments. This has also been sent to the superintendent of schools, and the Board of Education will be looking at it on Thursday, I believe. So if the board feels that we appropriately captured their comments, my suggestion would be that it be approved based on the approval of the Board of Education.
So in
I'll
your
make-
packet, under 5B, there is a resolution. Mr. Armita,
I'll make a motion that we follow Jim's recommendation.
and is there a second? Bob DePietro seconds it. Very good. No further discussion? Hearing none?
Read it before, I'm still not sure I understand exactly what it means.
Would you like to ask a question, Evan?
It doesn't, it seems like what's not here is an annual accounting of the amounts of the funds that are being used. It says allowing the money to be deposited in a fiduciary account, which is a mingling of funds that I'm not particularly comfortable about, but fine. Then it says a listing of the sources and uses, but not the amounts, must be presented to the Board of Education. And new revenue sources or changes in improved uses must be submitted and approved. But I don't see anything that says that there's going to be an accounting of what amounts are being rolled over from year to year. Maybe that was the intent, but doesn't actually say that.
Jim, do you have any further information you can share?
So, I mean, if you say sources and uses, and you say, well, we had a source of money, which was, admissions at the school plays,
And we
used it, but it doesn't tell me whether it was $500 or $10,000. And to me, that's important information. So, I understand the intention here. I guess I understand that it's an issue the auditors raised, and I want to make the auditor satisfied. But I wonder why the auditor didn't say, first of all, I wonder why the auditor didn't just say, don't do this. But okay, if he's saying only do it according to a policy, then I think the policy ought to be fairly rigorous about the handling of money that's being moved from a non-fiduciary source into a fiduciary fund and then rolled over from year to year, because I think there should be pretty clear-cut rules for how that money is reported and how it's made accountable for.
Mr. Rupert?
So what if we added, to that very long first sentence, with an accounting of funds that were received and spent annually?
That's fine.
As we all write
Cool.
quickly. Cooper, you have to behave.
Yep.
Uh,
Sorry, I'll mute.
Mr. Armita, you made the motion.
Comic relief.
So, Mr. Armita, we need you to amend your motion.
Amended.
Linda's gonna shoot us in a minute.
Well, Linda needs to know what the resolution now says.
Adam, can you word it for Linda?
The draft resolution that's in section 5B of the packet should be amended to add the words with an accounting of the funds spent annually before the words by October 1 in the 6th line down.
Received and spent, or just spent?
No,
Oh, well, received and spent, yes.
With an
Received
accounting of funds received and spent.
and spent annually by
Annually.
October 1 every year.
And there's Cooper. There we go. We got Doug in-house. Mr. Armita, will you take that as an amended motion? Yes, he will. And Mr. DePietro, you'll agree to the amendment? Thank you. Hearing no other changes at this time, I would call for the vote. All in favor of the amended motion, say aye.
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 Passes unanimously. Thank you very much. And that will get forwarded. Now we'll move on to consider an act on the budget that is before us that we've been working on for a couple of months. Do you have a comment, Mr. Rupert?
No, I don't believe I do at this point. So that's all I would say, yes.
Mike?
Do we have a final budget document that's going forward?
It is being worked on as we speak.
Okay,
Do we,
we usually have that in our possession before we vote on the budget going forward.
Well, okay, so I mean, you had an amount, you had a percentage.
We just don't, we usually vote after we have the book in front of us that's going to town meeting, so to speak.
Well, then you're gonna have to have a special meeting where we're trying to avoid that.
Oh, all right. Well,
You had a budget with a 5.31% spending increase
right. And
that you agreed to in your workshop, but did not act on.
I can live without it this year. It's, if we have to have another meeting, as long as we get to 5.31, I'll be fine. We all know what we voted on. I've got notes in my book, so I'll be
Bob.
comfortable.
thank you.
Yeah,
Rod,
Mike, I maybe forgot the answer to this question, but why is, excuse me, why is auditing up so much?
Because they are going out to bid for an auditor in the upcoming budget cycle. And if, if the Board of Finance chooses to change auditors, it may come at a significantly higher expense.
Does that answer
And
your question, Bob?
It is, yeah.
Mike, did you have a following
I'm
comment?
biting my tongue till it bleeds right now.
Very good. We'll get you, we will send over first aid. We know people in high places that will come and answer that call.
Mhm. I'm shaking my head, Mike.
Mhm.
Okay, so thank you both for your restraint. It's appreciated. At this time, I would ask for a motion to act on a budget that contains a 5.31% increase.
Moved.
And I would add, as you acted on in your budget workshop, so
Mhm.
that staff can't go ahead and make changes.
As-
to your budget.
As agreed upon during workshop time.
Yep.
Is that a, Mike
That's-
Aramita makes the motion, and do I have a second? Mr.
Yeah.
Teller seconds? And with no further comments, hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It passes unanimously. Review the draft ARPA fund motion.
I'm not asking you to act on this. It's before you, we can look at this again at the next meeting. I would say that if you have comments, I've tried to incorporate all of the requirements of ARPA for spending in this draft motion, so it's lengthy.
You don't need it.
I don't need you to act on it tonight. It's just, something that we discussed at the last meeting and I've worked on. But I do need you to look at it probably for action at the next meeting.
All right, at this time, because it was just, the action was not needed, review the draft funding motion. If you will all do that, we will get back to it at another further future meeting. We'll move on then to 6A, the properties and facilities report, the update on the temporary office building that Jim will start off the discussion.
So, we have visited, Selectman Sawyer and myself have visited two local companies that provide these structures. And I think we learned a lot from those site visits. We did go to Eagle Leasing, which has the state bid for this year, and those are, and I think you will all be able to have a perfect vision of this. When I say this, they are offices that are made from converted intermodal storage containers. And we, in order to fulfill our very basic needs, we would need 3 of those, and they would not be connected together. They would actually be separate structures located adjacent to each other. And they're, and I know that these are temporary structures, but they're not very aesthetically pleasing. They did not have insulation in the floors. and did not have significant insulation in the walls or the ceilings.
They are truly what you would see at a construction site, if I may, Jim. I apologize. And they were only 8 feet wide. And one of the things that we know is, and we're trying to provide quality workspace for our employees and a positive environment. Not being attached is a problem with one would, where one would only have the bathroom and they'd have to leave the facility to go to the other building, to go to the other building.
I
Well-
don't think you have to convince us, Pam. It's
All right, very good. Moving
just
on.
no idea.
It looked like a prison. It sounded like a prison. It was very cold.
Yep.
So we'll move on to the Wolf Scott, Jim, the Readyplex.
And so we actually went there, we looked at it, we ended up really kind of leaning toward this Readyplex that we've included in your package tonight, but it's not what we initially went to look at. But the conversation evolved with the gentleman that we met there, Chris LaBella, I believe was his name. And we initially looked at something that looked more like, essentially a mobile home that would connect together. And those units had restrictions because they're not clear span structures. So what we could do with those was pretty limiting.
Mhm.
And they also did not have, they did not come standard with insulation in the floors. It is something that we would have had to pay extra for. And so as the conversation evolved and we started talking about what our needs were and the things that we were trying to do, we landed on this 64 by 36 Readyplex. And we have a potential idea for a floor plan. I don't think it's what we would essentially settle on. But this particular floor plan has, I believe, 8 offices, a conference space, a restroom, a kitchenette area, and a small closet. The thing that, Pam and I were disappointed about with regard to this particular building is because they are so much nicer than the other items that most companies have for sale, they will not sell it to us. They will only lease it to us. And our initial goal was to be able to have a lease purchase program where we actually, had some value left in it at the end of our use. The advantage of having a lease program is the things that, they're responsible for things that break.
Yep.
So if the heating system or cooling system fails, they're responsible to come out and take care of it. And I think we could do some things like, build or buy our own stairs and ramps to reduce those rental costs a little bit. This particular building does fall within the budget that we've discussed. So I think, this right now, this is the thing that we have that we think best fulfills the need that we have. And
The discussion, if I may, the
Yeah.
discussion we had with Chris at the time we walked through. We did tell him about our need for handicap access, and he said though they are expensive, he would work with us and see what he could do about working on the price for ramping if we weren't going to do it ourselves. We talked about insulating the bottom heavily so that there is a comfort for our employees. So along 7 months of cold feet would not be an issue. It has a skirt around the bottom, as you can see in the picture, and it has a overhang on the top, and that can be all white or it can be a color. We have nixed purple as a joke, but they do have the other option of a color. And what I found was each of the 3 pieces were 12 feet wide and were taller, though it did have the noise factor when you're walking through it. It sounded a bit like a trailer, and I've been inside of temporary school buildings that had that same echoey sound. But I think with the flooring insulation, the ones we were in did not have that insulation. I think that would make a difference in the sound. Any questions we can ask Jim?
And this
Bob
is,
DiPietro,
Forgive me, but what pictures are you referring to?
was in your packet.
I don't see any. No, no, no. I didn't get any. Nope.
Can you
From
see
way
that?
back,
It's the same, it's similar to the picture you saw way back, Bob, yes.
way back. Huh?
It's three
Not,
piece.
not recently, but way back, right?
And there's the floor plan.
it should have been in this packet.
Yeah, it was.
No, I didn't get that. Nope.
Yep.
When did you get that, Mike?
It was in my email a couple of days ago.
Oh, oh,
Uh,
I don't know.
what day was this that it came?
I think it was Monday.
March 3rd.
Really?
March
Uh-huh.
3rd, the email from Kathy, Board of Selectmen agenda and packet, and it was the first packet in that email.
Bob, in the, on the, in the lease agreement, it talks about the estimated delivery and installation would, including estimated taxes, would be approximately $45,626.77.
And taxes would be removed.
Oh,
We're tax exempt.
going
entity.
back, whoop. Total delivery charge is $42,902. So it fits within the
Right, because we had put some money in the capital budget last
last
year
year.
for the infrastructure piece that we have to do.
Mhm.
And we have another 45,000, I believe, Adam, in our budget for this year.
For this upcoming fiscal year.
So that falls within that price range. And this is a price range for three.
So he gave us an opportunity for a 5-year lease, but our charter doesn't allow us to do more than a 3-year lease. So we
So-
would have to amend this lease to become a 3-year lease.
So this is
And
5.
Who
Total of-
prepares the base, the ground?
So they don't think that there's a lot of preparation needed. But I do actually have somebody who is, they called me today and said that their area guy is gonna be in the territory tomorrow and is gonna stop by and look at it with me, so I will have more information in the next couple of days with regard to that.
All right,
But right now, we're not thinking there's a lot that will have to be done for site prep, but we will have to do some digging for septic and water lines, and we will have to make arrangements for, an electric service, either to come from the existing building, we'll have to supply power either through the existing building or through a new electric service from the street, and there is, power available on that side of the street pretty readily.
plus
Bob-
internet.
Oh, yes. Bob, there is, this is just an update on the temporary building. We wouldn't take any action on this until we have some more information, and our next AP meeting is scheduled for the 21st of March. So you have time to go back and find the packet, and if it's not in your packet, then we'll certainly have one sent over to you tomorrow.
Okay.
I think the other, I think the other important piece of information is that, based on our conversations with this company, if we were able to commit soon, we could have a building delivered as soon as May.
And a building delivered does not mean a building ready to be occupied, but it does give us the ability to move it forward. So, Adam, did you have questions that we can answer at this time?
Is the heat electric? I see.
It is a heat pump.
Heat pump. Oh, yeah, I was wondering, because it says central AC with electric heat ducted, but doesn't say what kind of, doesn't say heat pump.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is when you're inside this building, it looks very different from the outside, it looks, but the exterior is actually a wood exterior with painted texture 111. When you're inside, you would be hard pressed to know that you're not in an office building.
Yeah, fabric wall. And I noticed, The lighting's fluorescent, huh? Not
Yes.
LED.
That's correct. I asked that question too.
Is it-
This is a total lease for 65 months.
Correct.
So
And we, because of our charter, we can only do 3 years.
$100,000 a year.
Of the advantages
Less.
of having
100 grand a year?
a lease, with
$60,000 a year.
being able to purchase at the end.
Sorry.
It's a real emphasis.
Sorry.
Well, it's a 5-year lease and it falls in right into the bracket of retiring debt and new debt coming in for a new building. And if you have a building, you know, if you have a building and after that period you end up owning it. If you didn't do with this so far, then what is the building? I mean, I'll guarantee that question will come up.
Man, I don't know about that with a temporary, with a modular building that
Oh, wait,
looks like this.
the no voters, yeah.
Well, we'll have a hole in the ground next to it and we will see what we can move forward at a future date. Bob's smiling. He's going to campaign this for us. Yeah. Thank you, Bob DePietro. We'll put your name down. Okay, thanks, everybody. If there's no further questions on the temporary building, Jim, you're good with waiting until March 21st?
Yeah, I don't think we have enough information for the board to act tonight.
Very good. Thank you very much. And we'll move on to the budget report. We are on 6B.
And nothing's really changed here. These are the same items that we've been watching.
There's nothing alarming.
Nope.
Right.
I didn't see any either. So if there are no questions for Jim at this time, we'll move on then to the budget transfers. Jim?
Oh. Find them. So we have a request from the highway department for $6,900 from tree trimming to equipment. And this will purchase the rubber tracks to fit the new skid steer. So that's within the existing budget. Yes.
Make a motion, we accept that one. I pushed them to do it and take it out of this year's budget if they couldn't afford it, so I'm in favor of that one.
Is there just the one?
No, there's more, but you can do them as package. I just wanted to spit my 2 cents out.
All right, then we'll hold the motion then, please.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, then we have $3,000 from in-town building operations from supplies to postage. We have this one that's hard to read here.
Purchase.
Oh, this is the purchase order for the
Skid
tractor, the skid steer, and then built, which you don't need to act on, because you've already acted on.
Yeah.
We have $2,525 from payroll to other payroll to pay the gentleman that we have had covering in the appropriate account.
That's it.
That's it.
Michael, would you like to?
Motion to approve them.
Second? Mr. DePietro, you want a second?
Sure.
Thank you, seconding the transfers. And if there are no further questions, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I,
Very good. Then we'll move on then to the AP report. I'm glad to see certain people were able to get their tax refunds.
Are they?
Yes, they were.
see.
If they asked their family accountant, they would know if the money came in or not. It's an inside joke, sorry, everybody. If you've read your AP report, there's some names that are specifically printed as they are every month for the tax refunds that have been given out.
It looked okay to me, so I'll move the approve.
Thank you, Bob DePietro. Do I have a second?
Sure.
Bob Morris seconds, Bob and Bob. Are there any further comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
I,
Aye.
Abstain.
And one abstention. Mr. Teller is the abstention, so it's 4 yes and 1 abstention. Moving on then to the first selectmen's report.
Pam, this is Linda.
Linda, how can we help?
What did you just vote on?
It's okay. We're just voting on the AP report, 6F.
Okay.
And it passed 4 in favor and Mr. Teller abstained.
Okay, thank you.
One of the things I wanted to share on the first selectmen's report is that we have the latest COVID numbers, and it shows the town of Bolton. The change from last week is there are 2 more positive. And in a 2-week change, there's 6 positives. The reason that's not a very viable number, of course, as you all know, is because that's the lab test, and that does not account for those that home test, and we have no recording of those. So, but it does seem, the numbers seem to be down on the graph. I'll hold the graph up, it's way down, for those that need to see it.
It's one of the lowest we've had in years.
So if anyone would like to see it this present, I can pass that around.
I'm good.
Does Linda have her hand up again?
Hi, Linda.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, just checking. We made sure we didn't want to miss you.
I'm good.
Very good. Thank you, Linda. I'm just looking, give me one moment. You're going to cover this one?
Sure. I put it in my reports.
Okay, so at this time, we're going to, because we've covered all the other items of things that I was involved with in other items, I'll pass it on now to number 7, the administrative officer's report. Jim?
I suspect you've all had time to look at it and read it. I'll address a couple of specific items. One of which is legal fees for the town attorney. He's requesting to go up by $50 an hour over the current rate. Current rates have been in place since, according to him, since 1988. So that would be a change of from $150 an hour for non-litigation matters and $175 for litigation matters up to 200 and 225 respectively.
That'll be an item that we will bring up at our next meeting. Is that what you're thinking, Mr. Rupert?
Well, I believe it's the cost of doing business.
Mhm.
He wants to be effective March 1st.
I don't think it requires any action
I would charge.
unless you're opposed to it. I don't think it necessarily.
Thank you.
requires-
We'll move on then.
And then the other one, which has been a topic of discussion, I did get a memo from Attorney Barger with regard to the use of Notch Road, and he goes into a fairly lengthy discussion there, but at the end, his conclusion is, if I were a member of the Board of Selectmen, I would be leaning toward the guideline memo, which I believe would give Personnel Director and the Board of Selectmen more discretion in dealing with a violation of a guideline. And this is something that has been discussed, and I think if you're ready to take action on it based on reading the memo and your thoughts and feelings about it, then you could certainly do that tonight.
Because of the late hour, it is already 9 o'clock. I would ask with the board's indulgence that we table this for the next meeting so that we can do it with clear heads and have time to digest it. Do I have a consensus with the board?
Mhm.
Hearing no negative reaction, then we'll move on. Jim?
I don't have anything else.
Nothing under other?
Is it appropriate to offer a motion to adjourn?
Just looking at of all of other members seem to be nodding yes. Mr. Mora, motion to adjourn and a second, Mr. Teller. All in favor, say aye.
All right.
I am hungry.
Thank you for all your work tonight. Thank you, Linda, for everything you've done. Chief, thank you for listening tonight. And to all on CBC, thank you for joining us.
Good
Good
night.
evening.